Attention listeners, AfterSight's annual hike is coming up on July 27th.
It was a really good experience for me.
Visit aftersight.org/hike and become an audio trekker today.
That hike today gave me so much courage.
Hey, you're listening to Blindsight. Let's go. Mental health isn't something to take lightly. It's time to fight. It's time to thrive. Let's do this.
Hello there. This is Bill Lundgren, your host of Blindsight. Welcome aboard for what I think is going to be an extra special session. This is part of our series that we're doing in the month of May of talking about mental health issues for women with blindness. And we decided to invite the most obvious person to come on board, and that is Penn Street, whom all of you know as the host of what used to be After Sight, but is now Blind Chick. And Penn, thanks an awful lot for coming on board.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much for asking me, and this is definitely a topic that's dear to my heart. Good.
Before we get started, I just wanted to make a couple announcements to let people know. Number one, the sports program is going to be starting in June, and this is Game Changer, and that's our newest podcast, so keep your ears open for that. July 27th is going to be our hike. And I have to tell people that stiletto heels and open-toe wedgies are not really good for a hike.
Oh, why not?
Broken heels all along the trail would not be a sight to see.
Oh, I love it.
But anyway, we have that. And we also want you to know that if you have some feedback for Blindsight or any of our programs, there are two ways to do it. An email addressed to feedback@aftersight.org, or you can call on our feedback line, which is 720-712-8856. So you keep those in mind if you have any suggestions, we accept praises as well as criticism. So anyway, Penn, again, welcome aboard. And how would you like to start off to talk about this very sensitive? It's a topic that's important to me as well.
Yeah. Well, I think being a female in general,
that does better than me talking about mental health issues with women. Okay.
Yeah, I think things have changed and are changing. I don't necessarily in my lifetime, Bill, see that there's been any huge improvements around mental health and being a woman. I know when the Me Too movement happened years ago, and I know that's a controversial subject for people.
Right.
But when the Me Too movement started, I was like, yes, finally, this is a topic women can talk about everywhere. And women can feel safe talking about this. And not just women, men as well. But then it just seemed to kind of fizzle out, which was what my fear was. And I feel like it did. And I feel that we dropped the ball again. So, but I do think growing up as a little girl, and then a young woman, and then a woman, I'm still growing up. Just being female, there were definitely huge barriers for me. And then also add a layer of having a disability.
Exactly.
I definitely felt I had a target on my back when I was out and about, and I was on occasion actually a target.
one of the statistics that I found absolutely shocking when I was doing a presentation, 84% of women with disabilities
Yeah.
report having been sexually assaulted at least once.
Yes, and those are reported.
Yeah, reported,
Those
exactly.
are not, I think that statistic is way higher.
Yeah.
I actually feel that if I meet a woman, especially if they have a disability, and they tell me they've never been assaulted, I want to touch them because they're like an angel. Because how did you survive without that?
Yeah.
Where did you live in a bubble? Like where did you go? What rock did you live under? But
well, the thing is, sexual assault is not about sex; it's about power.
It's not. It is.
And so, men who feel powerless, that's what you say. The target is on your back because they feel they can do whatever. Yeah. And it also has to do with the second-class quality that we give people with disabilities that we still have not been able to change. And the third thing is when I was starting out, I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and all the studies and all the reports about dosages and everything else were from male subjects. They would, unless they were forced to, they just applied whatever the men reported in the test of new drugs. And they just said, well, it'll affect women the same way. And it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And they're still having a little trouble, adjusting to that. They've gotten better. But there's a discrimination. And then, as you say, and I share this with you, I go to a doctor's office. They don't know what to do with someone who's blind. They just assume.
Yeah.
And so we have to educate. And every time I go to a doctor's office, I take time to explain to the receptionist or nurse how to guide my dog and me into the office.
Yes.
Not to grab my arm.
Yeah.
Or just say over there. You have to explain it to me. And,
just the simple things of, like, I just got home from a doctor's visit this morning. And just the simple things that I think sighted people take for granted is like, oh, we need to weigh you. Well, okay, what does over there mean? Are there not all of the scales have rails on them, but some of them do. So that's nice to know, because then you can line yourself up with where you're correctly supposed to be. Even things like, getting your vitals, getting, your oxygen tested, your blood pressure test, all of those things, they're just second nature to the assistants, the nurses' assistants, and things. They just grab you. And and it's, I don't think that they're doing it to be cruel or scare you, but you're right, Bill. We have to. I mean, it's exhausting. Every time we leave the door, we have a choice, right? We can either educate or not educate and just get angry at what's happening.
Right, exactly. And one of the things I found out last year at a conference, I went around and asked, at the various tables and said, how many have worked with people who are blind? And I found one treatment program that had ever encountered a blind person. And I realized that I have never seen anyone do a training in those conferences on the subject.
Yeah.
So they let me do it this year.
Wow.
And I'm hoping they'll ask me next year because nobody else is going to do it. Yeah.
Well, I know I went through a wonderful program here in Colorado called the Harmony House up in Estes Park many, 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 many years ago for alcohol and drug treatment. And I was the first blind, low vision person that they had ever encountered. But I think Bill, because of what they do and how they do it, they were more open to me than a lot of settings are about, teach us how we can better help you.
Right.
But I think it was because of the nature of what they were doing, because they're there to help you. They're there to support you in recovery. And so things, like lunch was a buffet, and I was extremely malnourished and underweight. And so they assigned somebody to me to make sure that I had enough nutrients on my plate at every meal. But they did that because they would have done that for somebody who was sighted. But for me, it was a blessing because
absolutely.
they filled two roles, right? Because I don't know what's on the buffet table. And it was neat because we did become good friends, the two of us. And she learned a lot about people who are blind and low vision. And she's like, I'm so excited for the next person I get to meet because I can take them through the buffet table. But the whole program is around that. But I do think that's rare, because anybody out there who's been through a treatment program, a lot of it is visual. Like they show you have to watch these movies, you have to read these books,
exactly.
You have to do all these different things.
Yeah.
And it's a month. It's 28 days, and they were fantastic about giving me enough assistance that I could be successful in the program, but yet not enable me. They didn't let me get away with stuff,
Right. So that's the important thing.
There were chores and stuff that everybody had to do once you reached a certain level. And I did those chores. And so I think it really depends on the program. And then, of course, the AA meetings, I have never walked into an AA meeting where I did not feel welcome, you know. But again, I think it's the nature of those situations.
Well, there are two things. One is the AA program, the intergroup, now has, you can go online, and they one of the things they ask if you need an access, and they will give you those meetings that are accessible to people with disabilities. The other part on the negative side is some of the research I've seen is that there are a number of treatment programs that are not ADA compliant.
Yeah, that is true.
So we're talking about, right now we're talking about the problems, and there are people who are really interested in helping, and there's some programs which like Betty Ford Center that are work primarily through visual, and they are paying attention to that kind of thing when they're working in the computer with people. But it's still one of the things that people with disabilities have to, if they decide to go into a program, they need to be real forthright, or their family members, and say, is this program capable? Does the program have material in alternative format for people in the program? And to be very insistent upon that. And the more that we do this, the more they're going to change.
Yes.
But there's another issue we don't talk about a lot of times, is that people with disabilities, and I'm talking in general because I don't have specific for people with blindness. Well, I'm sorry, I take that back. For blindness, people with blindness are 3 times more likely to have a substance abuse problem.
Absolutely.
And, for a whole lot of reasons, from your perspective, what, as a woman with blindness, what do you think contributes to those kinds of numbers?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I can only speak personally, but definitely for me, it was I had grown up with, my little sister and I called him the monster, who abused us from an early age on. And so, and that abuse actually contributed to my vision loss. It was because of something he did that triggered the Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and which led to my vision loss and all of my other health issues. So I was in a lot of pain, Bill, as a kid, just from the Stevens-Johnson syndrome. But also, I grew up in a family that you just brushed everything under the rug, and you didn't talk about it. So the abuse wasn't talked about, and definitely my blindness was not talked about. And so as a child, and all of this was going on, before I was 10 years old. And so when I hit teenage years, 12, 13, 14 years old, that's when a lot of kids get exposed and start understanding what alcohol and drugs are. And I grew up in a family, my dad, my parents, neither one of them drank or did drugs. There was never alcohol allowed in our house. It was very taboo, that kind of thing. But the minute, literally the minute, the very first drink I had, and I remember it, I can taste, I can smell it even to this day. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm okay. Nothing, like, I'm okay. I feel good. I'm funny. Nobody, my whole view of the world changed in a moment. And I had been on prescription narcotic drugs since I was 9 to help me sleep and deal with the pain. So adding, alcohol on top of that, and from that moment on, I was not sober completely until I went into treatment. And it was because it was my only escape into normalcy. And because my day-to-day life was just so painful and so dark, and that drinking, and then I got into other drugs, because that's just how it goes. It was the only place and time in my life that I felt okay and I fit in, and it was. It may sound silly, Bill, but it really did probably save my life. Because I don't think, and I did attempt suicide as a teenager, and it was a very, very, very good friend of mine that pulled me out of that. But really, Bill, I didn't know anything about therapy or programs or anything about mental health until I was 19 and leaving home to go to college, and met people who knew about these things, and I was able to get into the treatment program, and that it totally, completely changed my life, because I had no idea that these tools were out there, these people were out there that could help. And it was hard. It was extremely hard. Because my entire brain had to change. I had to change my friends. I changed where I lived. I literally changed everything, because I knew if I went back to any part of it, I was not going to be strong enough to say no. And I did. I moved to Denver. I changed where I was going to go to school, just because I knew nobody else that I knew was going to be going to that school. And also Denver had so much more support and programs, and that I desperately needed, that I wanted to just immerse myself in everything that I could possibly do to figure out who I wanted to be and how I was going to get there.
Wow, That's impressive, and that's the message we're trying to get across to people. There can be a better life.
Yeah.
But people don't
and
know
it's
that.
not easy. I really want people to know that. Once you make the decision, like, okay, I need help, and you make that phone call or you make that appointment or whatever it is that you do, that's when the real work begins. Because it was very shortly after I got out of the program, and I was working the program, doing my AA, going to school. I finally felt like I'm becoming the person that I would like to be, and was really proud of the work I was doing. And I got assaulted in Boulder, and that was shocking to me because I thought, hey, I got my life together. I'm doing everything right. Why is this?
Right.
What the heck? And that whole thing was very, very difficult to me. But luckily I was in therapy, and I had supportive friends and these amazing, amazing people around me that literally picked me up and, took me to the hospital and got me where I needed to be. But going through that experience with the police and the victims advocates and the hospital and everything that followed, as somebody with low vision, I never could have gotten through that without my support system. Because you talk about treatment programs not being ready for people with disabilities. That whole experience with the police, they did not know, because the way I experienced the attack was not the way somebody who was sighted would experience the attack. It was actually my sense of smell that they were able to find out who the guys were.
Really?
And it was not visual, because I could not visually describe them. I could kind of tell how tall they were, but not really. I knew they didn't have an accent. Like, I knew I could eliminate a couple of things, but all they said, well, what did they look like? What car were they driving?
Exactly.
These kinds of things. But it was my sense of smell that actually got them on the right track. And there actually was a woman who was in her apartment and heard the whole thing. And then I think they did get maybe some visual clues from her. But she was so terrified. And ended up I never knew who she was, but she did send me a letter in the mail a long time later that shared that she was really sorry that she didn't do anything, but I don't blame her. I mean, she was a single woman. She was afraid to get involved, and this was before cell phones and things like that we have now that make it easier to reach out for help. But so even Bill, like, even though it's like you make this hard decision to get your life back on track, or even on a track, maybe it's never been on a track, which is what it felt like with me. Things will happen, but if you, or at least I feel, if I surround myself with people that are supportive and caring and loving, and that when those rough spots happen, and some of them can be horrible rough spots, that you can keep going, you can survive, and you use all of those tools that you've gained in the past when you've gone through rough spots to help you get through the next one.
There's also, I think, a sense that women, particularly women, need to know that there are people out there.
Yes.
If you've been assaulted, the shame, and you think somehow you caused it.
Yeah.
And I think particularly for women.
Yeah.
Now, I might mention that we have some statistics on deaf men, and they have a very high assault. They've been assaulted. But for women, there are a couple of things. Number one, people hesitate to confront women who have a drinking problem far more than men. And in fact, they are in, a lot of times, oh, she wouldn't do that, especially when they forget because of women's body weight. We talk about social drinking. Social drinking for men is 2 drinks. For women, it's 1.
Yeah.
And we can't imagine, oh, she doesn't drink that much.
Yeah.
My grandmother was putting away, I think, a fifth every couple of days, and nobody in my family, I'm an addiction counselor, I'm certified, and nobody in the family told me until after she had died that she'd been doing that.
Wow.
And I thought, what the, in my own family, they just could not imagine Granny doing that.
Yeah.
And then some other things started to make sense.
Yes.
Because I had that information that they kept from me. But this is the way women are treated. There's a shame thing. She's supposed to be perfect, or she couldn't be an alcoholic because she's a female.
Or she's only drinking wine. I know.
Right.
I have dear friends that really struggle, and it's because they only drink wine, so they're not an alcoholic. They're not falling down in the gutter, at 2 a.m. coming home from the bars, and they just have 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine in the evening, and
this is true for mental health as well. Women, because women are more and more are out working.
Yeah.
And they're going to be a little more visible. But again, any mental health issue, this person couldn't have something like that.
Yeah.
And so we begin, because it's a she rather than a he, they make all kinds of assumptions in terms of behavior. And also women their depression tends to take a very withdrawal effect, while men tend to get violent with depression. In fact, men are often male depression is often not diagnosed because it appears in terms of domestic violence. There are all kinds of things. Is really depression.
Yeah.
So that there's a misdiagnosis because you're a woman or because you're a male.
Yeah.
In terms of the symptomatology and the diagnostic and statistical manual, I haven't seen a clear delineation. Females show this as opposed to male showing this. It's just everybody has whoever has these symptoms.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, wait a minute. There's a discrimination here.
Yeah. I saw a little interview with Drew Barrymore. I love Drew Barrymore. I've loved her since she was in Firestarter when she was little. But one of the reasons I really love her show is because she talks a lot about mental health and a lot of women. And this clip I saw earlier today, she was talking about she had taken her daughters to the beach, and Drew is a full body woman, and she said, she really wanted to take her girls to the beach, but she was like, oh, they're going to want me to get in the water, which means I have to take off my cover up, and I'm going to be in my swimming suit. And even though all these swimming suits, they supposedly hold you in all the right places. They don't. And she said, but she looked over at her daughters, and she's like, what kind of image am I portraying to my daughters?
Yeah.
And so for her daughter's sake, she just, ripped off her cover and she goes, cottage cheese and all. I ran full hips to the water holding my daughter's hands. And because that's a whole thing too, is as as our world becomes older, here in Colorado, there's more people over 60 versus 0 to 18 now in Colorado. That there's a lot of us that are my age. I turned 56 in March, and a lot of my friends are my age, a little younger, a little older, but we're all going through a very similar stage of life. And there's so much going on, Bill, with our hormones that are going all nuts, but also just our bodies are changing, we all talk about it's falling apart, or, something that used to be up is down,
factor.
Something's down now. So
right. It's shame. If we don't look like a Playboy model, then somehow there's something wrong with us.
Exactly. And even going along with that, Bill, I've had friends that said, I wish that my 20-year-old or my 30-year-old or even my 40-year-old younger self could actually see what she looked like. And because when you're 20, 30, 40, I don't think even then you really truly realize what you look like. And
right, in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. But for men getting older, even their hair getting gray, they're distinguished. I mean, I hear it all the time, George Clooney gets better looking as he gets older. You hear that so much in media, that the men are getting better looking as they get older. But the women, it's the opposite. There's just these constant ads, you got to do this so you'll look younger, you got to do this so you'll be thinner, you got to do this so your bones don't creak, all this stuff. And it's like, it's overwhelming mentally. It's exhausting.
Absolutely. And, the thing is, we hear many, many stories about husbands leaving their wife for a younger woman.
Yes.
And what does that do to the person? Rather than looking at, how stupid the guy is, they turn inward and feel shame because they couldn't compete.
Right.
And so this is all contribute to now on the positive side, women tend to seek counseling.
Yes.
Far faster than men.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what they have to deal with is just the shame and the accept, okay, this is what's going on. I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And finding the individual who will help them. There were some women that preferred to come to me as a male therapist, as opposed to going to a female therapist. And it was never really quite clear to me what they saw as the difference. But I think there's a belief among some women, and this is what I've been able to gather, to even mistrust each other.
I agree with that. I hope that I'm not like that or ever will be like that, but I've definitely worked in professional settings where it was actually the women that were the more cutthroat towards me versus the men. And I don't know, Bill, if that comes from, we have to work so much harder and even still get paid less than the men.
Yeah,
but we have to work so much harder that it makes us more competitive. I don't know, because like when you mentioned that women said they came to you because you were a man versus going over to a woman therapist, that was the first thing that popped into my mind is women tend to trust men more than they trust another woman, which I do not feel that I'm that way, but I don't know, maybe I am, and and I don't know it.
Well, there's an inequality. If a woman gets angry she's called a certain name. If a man does it, they say, well, they accept it.
Absolutely.
If a woman cries, oh, well, that's what women do. But if a man cries, then he's a sissy. So it's that double standard
I know.
for the same kind of emotion. And women are in many ways allowed to be more emotional. In fact, they're encouraged to be.
Yeah.
But men, on the other hand, are not. And, we'll get into, the mental health of men, but that's very much related on both sides to creating mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that in my adult life, I have facilitated a lot of low vision support groups, and always, I would say 95 to 99% are women that come to those groups. Even now, the group that I facilitate for a low vision group, it's nice because we actually do have, I would say it's more 80% women and 20% men. And that's really exciting to me because maybe there has been a shift that men are feeling more comfortable to ask for help, or at least, be willing to be open to some alternatives as they start losing their vision.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's also for men to be willing to express themselves in front of women.
Yes.
Because, it's again, both for women and for men, is that facade that we're kind of forced and taught to put up. And then the facade is, as you said, when part of your recovery had to do to find out who you really are rather than what other people expected you to be.
Exactly. And I think, being born, and again, I think things have changed some, but we just have so far to go. But, and I do think that little girls now, and especially, girls that are blind or low vision, I think that they do have more options now than I had as a child. I know when after I lost my vision when I was 9, and yes, I did have other health issues besides that. My parents, within a month, went out and got $1 million life insurance policies on themselves because their belief is that I would always have to be taken care of. So if anything happened to them, there would be financial resources there. And so it was kind of funny when I knew this because, I went on to college and I moved away from home, and I actually got a job and career and all of this, and actually was financially more independent than most of my siblings, even to this day are. But once they really realize, she's okay, she's going to be okay.
Exactly.
And I knew that they had given up those life insurance policies, but they did not share that with my other siblings.
Right.
But I knew that. And so when my parents passed away, some of my older brothers were like, wait, where's this?
Where's this $1 million?
Where's all this? Where's our inheritance? And I had to laugh, and I said, "Oh, they gave that up a long time ago because I didn't need it.
Because you were better."
And they were a little miffed, how dare you be independent? But I think now I don't feel like parents think that as much. I still think a lot of parents do.
Yes.
I'm sure you've encountered some of them, but I think now, little girls that are blind and low vision, we have a lot more role models now than we did. When I was little, I had Helen Keller. That was my role model.
That was it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or Mary on Little House on the Prairie, Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, but it was... But now there's just, there's the Paralympics, there's all these amazing blind women with these incredible careers that little girls who are blind, have people to look up to and like, hey, she did it. Maybe I can do that. But I it's still not enough, right? We still have a long way to go.
Well, I think one of the things you're talking about, too, has come up in a number of podcasts that we've been doing, is that where are the therapists who have low vision or are blind? They don't, we don't know oftentimes who or where they are. And we're just beginning to do something about it. I got asked to, well, you can form a professional association. Well, I got enough to do, but somebody's got to get out there and, say, yes, there are a lot more of us than you think.
There's a lot of us, right, Bill?
Right. But we don't let people know. And I used to go to conferences all over the country, and I'd be the only person with a disability that would show up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't believe I'm the only one in the country. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And why do you think that, Bill? Because I do that as well. Like, we just got back from Costa Rica a few weeks ago. I love to travel. And my husband and I, Bill, Moses, if he sees another blind person when we're traveling, he's like, Penn, there's another blind person. And it's like, I get excited too. Like, oh, there's more than just me in this country. And I do, I will. I'm one of those people. Hi, I'm blind too. Like, how's it going? But why
we don't say, I'm glad to see you. We say, I'm glad I can't see you.
I know, exactly. But why do you think that there's not more of us out there?
I wonder if sometimes, to go to these conferences are a royal pain in the butt if you can't see. You've got to learn the layout. You've got to let people know you need help, and you have to. And the thing that's really tough, we're taught NFB and all, be independent and whatever. And there are times we can't be.
Yeah.
And so we have to let down our guard and say, look, and fortunately in conferences that I've gone to, particularly people who run them, when I tell them what I need, which of course is humbling for a guy to say, I need anything, even if he's blind.
Right.
But I need this. And they're more than willing to, they're grateful that I let them know.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people don't want to go through that and may feel, okay, they will get what they need, continuing ed and so forth, in other ways that are more at home or working with some other people on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, during COVID, I got so used to ordering my groceries online.
Yeah.
That now I hate going to the grocery store.
Right.
Absolutely.
You got it. Got it.
I was like, when did I ever like this? This is not fun. It's not fun. When I order online, I know exactly, like, oh, I want to try different tomato sauce. What kinds are there? And I can pull it up.
Exactly.
But so I understand.
I don't want to look through shelf after shelf to see what's there.
Exactly. So I can see that, but we have to. I mean, talk about mental health. We can choose to stay home and have our order, all of our life delivered to us, right?
Or friends will take care of us and they'll do the shopping for us.
Exactly. But I know I have to continue going out. If I don't, I don't want being homebound to be comfortable. I want it to.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, because of COVID, it's gotten comfortable.
Yeah.
And my dog looks at me and says, when the hell are you going to get out there, Daddy? That's what you pay me for.
Exactly. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Well, this has been delightful. Penn.
Oh.
It really has been. We haven't really had much of a chance to talk about this kind of history.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your sharing with the audience and with me what you've been through. And it certainly increases if that were possible, it increases my admiration for you.
Oh, Bill, thank you.
But I want to ask, is there some last words you want to leave our audience?
Yeah, I think, I know with me personally, people think I'm such a happy person, and I am, and I try to be, and that I've accomplished so much, and I have, but it hasn't been easy. It's and I've been called the kumbaya girl more than once in my life. And I don't mind that, but I also think that when you're kind of known for being the happy person, the giving person, the successful person, that it's harder to share the struggles because
to be real.
Exactly.
We have to be an image of all blind people.
Exactly. But I think that that's how we all learn and we all grow. And it's not easy. It's hard. It's really, really, really hard at times. And, we are going to face monsters on all kinds of levels out there. But I know with all my heart and all my experience that there's way more beautiful people out there than there are monsters.
Right,
and if we surround ourselves with those beautiful people and one of those monsters do get through, that will be okay because we have those beautiful people around us.
Exactly. And we have to be out there to meet and spend time with those beautiful people. That's the key.
Absolutely.
Staying in our homes and protecting ourselves that way is not real helpful.
Right.
We have to get out there and be there. And I consider you one of my beautiful people.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on the program. And as I said before to our audience, thank you for being here and tuning in. And if you have any thoughts, put them in an email to feedback@aftersight.org or on the phone with the feedback line 720-721-8856. Thank you all for being here.